Hello and welcome back to the Reonic Quick Planning Series. In this video, we'll go through the remaining parts of the offer creation process and we'll end up with a final offer that we can send out to clients. In the last video, we've already successfully created our first PV system and battery storage, so we will use that now to follow up with the process. Moving on from planning, we can go to parts list, which is basically just a quick summary of all the components that we put together. So the modules, the inverter, the battery storage, and the corresponding prices here on the right. You also might see these green bubbles here, which is the display of the margins. This, however, can be set in corresponding user rights. So you might see those, you might don't see those. Usually it is set to only being visible for admins of the account. Moving on from parts list, we can have a look at simulation relevant data, which is energy flows and economy. And in here you see a bunch of charts which give you additional information on your plant's performance and in correspondence with what you are using and producing in terms of energy. You see here quite prominent that there are two KPIs that we're looking in, which is own consumption and autarky. So two things. Own consumption obviously is the percentage of energy that you consume from your solar system that you've planned. In this case, this is 47%. So these 47% of the energy will go either straight into your household demand or directly in the battery storage and later on in the demand. A higher number obviously is something that we are looking for. So obviously you want most of your power to be used directly, as it is usually cheaper than going and feeding it into the grid. On the other hand, we have autarky, which is the second KPI, and this is basically the independence from the grid. So how much energy do you still need to purchase from the grid to meet your total demand? And as you can see, this chart here down below is what we call a Sankey chart, which is basically showing us the energy flows. So we read it always from left to right. We can see that in here, if you hover over it, you can see the PV system that we've planned, which is basically generating 8,161 kilowatt hours on average per year. And there's some energy that goes straight to the grid. There's some energy that goes straight into a household demand, and some energy which goes through the battery storage and then into a household demand. The household demand we set to 4,500 kilowatt hours. You might remember this number because we've set it here in planning at the 4,500 kilowatt hours here. And you can also move these around if it's too much overlay for you. The cool thing is that we are looking at these numbers here, these energy flows on average. We can also select a certain year if we want to be looking at a certain timestamp here. We'll do a deep dive video on how the simulation works precisely, which input factors we are considering, and how to make changes to the simulation accordingly. But we'll do a deep dive video on that. And we'll just move down further. We have a few extra charts to look into. So solar production throughout the year, household consumption throughout the year. And I mean, if we would have planned a heat pump, an EV battery, an EV charger, then we would have separate charts for these two. Fantastic. So next up, we'll look at economy, which is also super interesting and obviously a decisive factor for an end customer. So in here we have three main KPIs, which is basically break even, total investment, and ROI, return on investment. And we can see that the break even is happening after 5 years. We can also have the corresponding view on the break even chart. And we see that the total investment, so the sum of the components that we put together, is at 11,140. Again, we'll do a deep dive on this in a separate video, just so you know that this is being displayed and also later on being displayed in the offer view. Moving on, we'll go to finalize and preview, which is basically the last step before we create the offer and send it out to a client. In here, we will have the option to create a custom message to the client, which will then show up in the offer on the first page. So basically, hey, dear customer, please find here the offer that we've created together. If you have any questions, reach out. So get creative in here. You'll also have the option to decide pricing display in the offer. Basically allowing you to decide whether you want to show unit prices or package price or just a total price. So how much detail you want to show is something that you can decide here. And we can customize our pages. We will do a separate video on that, which basically allows you per client to change the basic structure of the offer that you're sending out. In this case, we'll go with the default settings and we will have a look at the preview here. Fantastic, so this is loaded and we will go to the overview so you can have a look at what the offer is looking like. We have set a nice cover letter here, a company presentation. Obviously, we have an overview of what we've planned. And in here, and I'm going to do this a bit bigger here, we can also see the PV system that we've planned together with the perspective that we've selected in the planning. If you want to have a look at this again, please go back to the video there where we did the planning together. As I said, we have the overview here. We then have an overview about the components that we've planned. We have the monthly energy production and the energy flows that we've had a look at together. We can also see there's also a different version to show this here in a flow chart. I'll show this to you in the deep dive video on the PDF settings. And if we go further down, we can also see the break-even chart that we've just had a look at, and the energy cost that we have annually, including costs for the system and costs for electricity that we still need to purchase from the grid. So that is super interesting. We also have a contribution to climate protection, which can be a nice touch. And obviously the components that we wanted to show in here. As I said, the price display we can change around. So if we would have selected total price, then these individual sub prices would not show and only the 11,140 euros. Moving further down, we can have obviously additional legal text that we can display in here. These are just test texts that we can set here, but obviously your legal texts should appear here. As well as the data sheets. These are automatically imported here for corresponding to the components that you have planned. Fantastic. So if we're happy with that, we can move over to request signature, which is basically allowing us to send out the offer straight to our clients digitally, but also can mark that we are finished with planning and we are handing over to the client for signature. Whether that signature happens analog or digital doesn't really matter. So I just hit finalize in preview here, finalize planning and request signature here. We can also select the validity of how long a digital offer that we send out can be accessed. So in this case, 14 days. And it will create the PDF here now again and finalize it for sending out. If I hit accept here, it will save this for me and I can finalize and publish. And I would also be able to notify the client if I want to. So this would be basically if I want to send it out via email, I can do this now. If not, and I just want to print it out and bring it to the customer directly, I would click no. The good thing is that you can always notify the client afterwards again if you decide to do so. If not, you can just download the offer right here. So that is the PDF form of it. And you could also open up the digital form of the offer, which would be the one that you send out to the client. I will do a separate video on this, so stay tuned. And thank you for watching. Seeing you in the next video.